computer audio, right?
Yeah.
And then, isn't there another one I have to push? Oh, there's start the video.
Yeah.
Is that the video?
Yes,
Did I do that one?
that's got you on. I mean, it's on, that's why there's the agenda up there.
Okay. Is the microphone on too?
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, that thing.
If you want to turn it off, hit that.
Melissa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Keith.
Okay, good. Then I did it right. The evening meetings, I have to use her computer, and
Okay.
we're an Apple family on one side and a PC family on the other. So
Gotcha. I understand.
hey, Chief.
How are you?
Good,
I
you?
wouldn't unmute.
Little mute there.
Hit the button like 3 times and it wouldn't turn off or turn on. Enjoying the weather change?
I'm actually. I just said in the other meeting. I said I think I might try shorts to the office tomorrow.
Yeah,
Just for my own sanity.
yeah. I still have snow in my backyard.
Oh, I've got a lot. I'm off of Meadowlark,
Yeah,
and yeah, we still got a lot of snow in our backyard, where the trees and the sun doesn't hit.
yeah. The front and side's not too bad, but back I've got a ton.
Hey, Dan. Dan Macrina.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Just a quick, this is an aside. What, did your bees survive the winter?
No,
Really?
no. Yeah, and that happens. It makes it. I lost them both actually. Oh God, we had obviously it got cold, and then we had a warm up, and then they died. What happens is when you get these warm days like today, it's very dangerous because they'll go out there and fly, and if they don't make it back to the hive in time and back to into a cluster before it gets cold, they're done.
They freeze out, huh?
Yeah. So I'll get some more. Might wait a
Wow.
little bit, little busy right now, so it's probably good timing.
I was just wondering, I saw the hives seem kind of,
Yeah, I put them there so I had them like that so that they would kind of dry out and, any other bees, if there's any honey in there, they can get it out of there. So
I didn't think it looked good when I saw it.
no, they're all kind of cattywampus.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Bill, you're in Tom's cameras aren't on.
Oh,
Never mind.
Oh, it isn't? What? Oh,
no, it's not. Why is that?
Yeah, when I came in, my camera is normally on and it wasn't. I had to turn it on.
Yeah, you got to go down to the bottom and
Yeah.
unmute it or
It was just
Get
weird.
out.
Normally when I log in though, at least on the
left-hand corner at the bottom,
it's right
Tom.
on.
Where?
go all the way down to the left-hand bottom.
Yeah. Oh, start video.
Yeah.
I got you.
There you go.
Here you go.
Ah, that's
Oh, better yet, turn it off.
Oh, yeah.
all
If you have an-
right.
If you have an iPad, it's on the top right.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, I heard that turpentine came from actually Shillington.
What? How'd you hear that?
I believe, is that what you mentioned to me, Pat?
That's where some of the tracing that Shillington did the next day was. It basically came out of their culvert. They're not exactly sure where in Shillington, but it came through their sewer system, through their sanitary system.
So that sewer lid there by where it was coming out somehow leaked into the storm store thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Well, that's not a good thing.
They should take a
Sure.
look at that.
Yeah. I was
The
gonna say
Burman-
that means-
The borough manager of Shillington is taking a look at things and he's supposed to let me know what's up.
So, yeah, because otherwise, you know what can be leaking in there too.
Right.
Okay. Wow. So how did they find it? Did they just happen to look? I mean, it was kind of,
I'm not 100% sure, Tom.
yeah, all right.
Okay, well, we'll get this meeting started. Call the meeting to order. And I'll start with saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Councilmember Bauscher,
Here.
Councilmember Woodward,
Here.
Councilmember Brunner will be absent this evening. Councilmember Jenks,
Here,
Councilmember Menon,
Here.
Councilmember Jur,
Here.
and Council President Mull.
Here. Like to announce that before tonight's meeting, there was an executive session to discuss personnel, hiring and promotional procedures, and also a contract with, relative to a contract where there's possible litigation with Public Works. Public comments. Do we have any this evening?
Yes, I have. When Melissa is ready, we have a video from last week, last month that did not play. So with her, this is my wife. And again, as we showed you last time, the orange cone that you see is the end of our driveway. I am in the garage filming her. It does, it's a really poor video. Anyhow, so we got that for you, and I got some stats and some numbers to give you an idea of how much we had to do that day. We moved somewhere in between 200 and 300 cubic feet of snow. there was about 50 wheelbarrows that we had to load and carry downhill to the side of the road. It was almost a full day of hard labor for the two of us. As I told you, you cannot, right now she's putting it on the side, but you cannot leave it there. At some point, it becomes too high. In any case, we appreciate that after our intervention last month, Mr. Babb instructed his crew to change their ways, and they finally did an appropriate job. The only thing I want to add is that this was not an isolated incident. We brought this issue to Mr. Babb's attention several times in the past. Also to Marty Hosey and Mr. Brandenburg. Mr. Krotuyarski also brought the issue up as well. His wife, Dr. Tillich, is also a physician. At no point anybody ever came to look at the situation, to listen, to treat us with respect. And as you know, actually we got hung up on. Jim Babb doesn't even answer my phone, my number. So why do we have to present dramatic footage of visible discrimination to the council in order to have basic services provided? This is a question here. Why do we have to even come here? Why can't we have a rule, one rule for all residents? Why do we even have to appear in front of the council for such a simple matter? Why can't this be resolved with a simple call to Mr. Babb or some form of hotline that you can provide your residents? An email, a few pictures should be enough for corrective action to be initiated. That's it. We do not need, nobody needs this circus. The Helms came to complain that the deer make their pet dog sick, and you rushed into action to control the deer population. And you want to tell me this is not discrimination? For close to 10 years, the Colin Denaro blocked our mailbox and our driveway exits and snow removal with no legitimate purpose. And you took no action. We sent pictures and videos of visibly harassing acts, which you ignored over and over. When Colin Denaro did the same thing to another immigrant family, Tillich Krotuyarski, you continued to look away despite Greg providing you with video pictures of visibly hateful acts. Yet you rushed to install a no parking zone in front of Colin Denaro without any complaint or any legitimate reason. No documentation justifying that decision exists whatsoever. You went even further and buried the written letters from the neighbors that opposed the ordinance. You all voted in favor of the ordinance. Why does the council condone misogyny, xenophobia, and bigotism? Mr. Babb hangs on a female physician. Mr. Brandenburg does not answer my phones or emails. This borough does not have a system that works equally for every resident. Everything happens behind closed doors with no documentation or accountability. You continue to make mighty declarations that there is no discrimination in the borough without even knowing that precisely such declarations are what defines prejudice and discrimination. We've had this conversation with Mr. Woodward. Now I see that we have this again coming up, the same thing. A racist is the person who denies he or she is a racist. And if you
Mr.
want to
Janik,
talk more
Mr.
about
Janik,
this.
your time is up. Your 5 minutes.
And I am done. Thank you. It was time to be 5 minutes.
Well, you went over.
Thank you.
Next, excuse me. Any other public comments this evening? Next item of business is the public hearing on ordinance number 1416-2021, the zoning overlay amendment. And I'll turn the meeting over to our solicitor, Chris Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Mole. This is the time and place that's been advertised for a public hearing to be followed by consideration of enactment of an ordinance amending the borough zoning ordinance. This ordinance is a product of a process that began about 2 years ago when the borough undertook a master plan study to seek recommendations for how to promote additional development in the borough around the area of Park Road and Penn Avenue. And as a result of that process, the ordinance developed to identify a few redevelopment areas in the borough, and within those designated redevelopment areas, which are shown on an exhibit to the proposed ordinance, there are additional zoning regulations that are optional for a developer. If a developer chooses to utilize those optional regulations, they have the right to put in primarily mixed use development, including apartments in areas that wouldn't otherwise allow apartments. And the intent is to provide additional housing in a more dense urbanized type of development pattern, along with supporting type businesses like restaurants or shops that would be complementary with the apartment uses. And another key portion of the ordinance is to promote the use of structured parking as part of this denser type of development. So this is essentially an incentive type ordinance based on the recommendations of the master plan study. And we will see if there are any developers who choose to bring any projects to the borough within the designated redevelopment areas. Are there any public comments at this time regarding the proposed ordinance? I don't see any indication that there are any public comments. Just for additional information, part of the process for this ordinance was to go through the Borough Economic Development Committee, the Borough Planning Commission, the Berks County Planning Commission, and notices were mailed to property owners within the areas that are proposed to be rezoned as part of this ordinance. So there was a substantial, there was also posting and published notice. So there was a lot of process involved to make people who may be potentially affected aware of the proposed regulations. With that, and based on the fact that there are no public comments, I believe it is appropriate for council to close the public hearing. And now the council may consider a motion to enact the proposed ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1416-2021. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have on this topic.
Thank you, Chris. Next item of business is, may I have a motion to receive all the committee reports, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. First item of business tonight is the approval of the minutes of the council meeting of February 9th, 2021. Are there any additions and corrections to the minutes? All those in favor of accepting them, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Next item of business is consulting engineers report. Mr. McCarthy.
Good evening, Chairman Mole. How are you?
I am well, thank you. And you, sir?
Fantastic.
Great.
All right. On I have a couple, one deletion and one addition to my report. Number 3, I actually noted council action needed on the grant application. This is actually, we need council approval to continue to work with Econ Partners to put together a grant application for the Lincoln Brandywine culvert work. And particularly this grant would be for that $1.2 million of relining. And fortunately, this grant carries only a 15% match by the borough. So the bulk of this could be funded by that grant if we're successful.
Somebody would like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
And item 7, we're actually, Michelle and I were talking earlier today, we're going to table that and bring that to infrastructure and then bring that back to council. The only item I have that's not in my report, and Melissa, could you put that up? It's for Berkshire Mall West. As you may recall, they received conditional final approval from both council and the planning commission. As they went through satisfying some of their technical issues, they ended up having to replace an existing 24-inch pipe on the property with a 30-inch pipe. So that the pipe will be 30-inch all the way across their property. Then when it ties into the inlet down slope of it, there's an existing 24-inch. So technically, they're improving the situation, but they technically need a waiver because our ordinance says you can't go from a bigger pipe to a smaller pipe. And
Jim, is this a stormwater pipe or?
this is a stormwater pipe.
Yeah, okay.
Now, does this make any sense to do that?
Well, we really can't require them to replace downstream. The pipe is flatter in their property and is required to be larger to handle the flow. The existing pipe, the 24-inch pipe is steeper and actually carries more flow than the 30-inch pipe.
In light of all of our 500-year rains, is this a good idea still?
Well, I mean, essentially, replacing the pipe downstream would be considered an off-site improvement that we can't force them to do. It would be something that we would have to do in the future if we wanted to do it. And if they put the 24-inch pipe back in and replace the pipe that's in bad condition, we like whenever somebody's redeveloping a site and they're going to replace the pipe, we want it to carry the capacity of the ordinance. So what would happen before is the pipe would bubble out and run down the parking lot and out onto our road. At least this way, it's in a pipe in a box going to another pipe. So we've made the situation better. It's really more of a technical issue of just normally you don't want a smaller pipe downstream of a larger pipe because it can clog. It's really the reason. I think they're following the intent of our ordinance to pick up and convey more stormwater through their site into the storm sewer system than existed currently.
Jim, will there be access at the junction?
Yes, the junction
Jim,
is.
will there be access at the junction?
Yes, the access point is an existing catch basin. So you get access through picking up the grate.
Okay.
So in case it clogs?
Right. And clogging would really be, typically you're worried about clogging with basketballs and things like that they like to clog 18-inch pipes for some reason. But all of the stormwater that enters this pipe system is all going through inlet grates. So nothing really that large can get in here. There's no open head walls that could pick up large debris. So I think it's
over there in the bypass, or does this end up over in the rec area there?
This all comes down from Berkshire Mall West, down past Alabrehe and Crossing Drive. Then eventually makes its way down to all those PennDOT swales behind the old service merchandise and on the border and down into that system.
All right.
So there's no chance, Jim, of this, going from a larger pipe to a smaller pipe to back up and cause flooding, you're saying?
No, because the 24-inch pipe has a steeper slope and actually carries the same, if not more than the 30.
Okay.
Really, the only risk is a clogging risk, and going from a 30 to a 24, we're not as worried as if we were dealing with, say, an 18 to a 15 or a 15 to a 12.
All right.
Okay. Is that it, Jim?
Yep,
He's looking for a motion to, is that a waiver, Jim?
it's a waiver of, yes, it's a waiver of section 310C7 of the stormwater ordinance.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
And the only other thing I have is that Barwis is getting ready to mobilize back in 4th Street in 2 weeks.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
Great.
And that's all I have, unless you have anything additional.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the consulting engineers report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Police chief and mayor's report. Mayor Levering, Chief Phillips.
I have nothing further to add this evening, Mr. President. The chief will be happy to answer any specific questions that you may have.
Okay. Chief?
Good evening, everybody. Just some highlights of the report that I submitted to council is that we responded to 554 calls for service this month. 132 were in our business areas, where then 26 were in our residential communities. We're still operating under our COVID-19 guidelines. The testing that was, the testing site held at the synagogue that I spoke with you about during Fire and Police Committee was a success. They did not see the traffic that they did the last time they did it in the city. They saw a total of 372 people between February 13th and the 17th. We had no reports of any complaints from the residents in the area for traffic and things like that. It was, the traffic was negligible as far as any kind of impact to the community. In the department, we're up to 15 of us have been fully vaccinated. So we're at 71% of our people that work here in the police department for the COVID-19 virus. Our average time for getting to any incidents that we're dispatched to is 3.3 minutes for the month of February, with an average of 23.9 minutes of handling the calls. We completed a lot of in-house training in February. Some of it began in January, but finished in February, and it was with the CPR, the AEDs, first aid, and we completed certification training on specialty impact munitions. Those are the less lethal munitions, like 12 gauge bean bags and 40 millimeter sponge rounds, taser, chemical agents to include our OC sprays that we carry, and use of force reviews. We handle a lot of incidents because of the weather with disabled vehicles and traffics, non-reportables. They were a little higher, as you can see later in the report. But I'd like to commend the borough crew with the job that they did in February with keeping the roads open and passable for the motoring public. I mentioned this in Fire and Police that I have initiated the taking of a assignment number for all traffic stops so that we can better track what violations are being stopped and who's being stopped, and for court purposes. You'll see that on the next page, that traffic stops were among the highest types of incidents that were recorded for the month of February. And you may have heard that our Parks and Rec committee was the victim of a phenomenon known as Zoom bombing back on February 16th. And in today's world, it should be expected, but who would have thought? The Zoom bombing, they had somebody come into the meeting and play some inappropriate videos. I've had our detectives execute search warrants on the IPs of the individuals that did this. We've gotten some information back now that since I've typed this, that the addresses on the computer that conducted this Zoom bombing was either from Germany or the Ukraine, or they were using a device to hide their identity and their location.
Of course they were.
Yep. So lastly, with this part of it, on February 24th, we teamed up with Homeland Security and the Berks County Human Trafficking Task Force and conducted a online undercover operation targeting individuals soliciting sex and to both adults and minors. We made contact with 27 individuals on this day. We are definitely charging 5 with soliciting sex with minors. 7 are being charged with various drug offenses. We found 2 that were wanted, and there are an additional 15 were identified, and there's possible charges of soliciting prostitutions that are coming, are pending with them. It's been the policy of the district attorney's office thus far when we do these not to arrest those that are actually soliciting for adult prostitutes. But with the amount that they're seeing every time we do these, they're considering changing that rule that they have. So that may be changing. So, and I'm trying to push for that because this is all part of the problems that we're having at some of our various hotels where this stuff is going on. And I would like to try to discourage as many people as possible from committing every crime that we can, so that trying to clean those areas up. Again, then with the offenses, like I said, with the traffic stops, they're among the highest for what we dealt with for the month. And we made a total of 22 arrests during the month. Issued 61 citations for violations, parking 5, and issued 34 warnings. If anybody has any other questions, those are the highlights. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for the chief?
Oh, good work.
Yeah, good job. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the police chief and mayor's report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Let's have it. Thank you very much, John. Next is the fire commissioner's report. Phil?
Okay, the February report, the Wyomissing Fire Department responded to 125 calls for service. 78 of those calls were in the borough, resulting in $1,650 in fire damage. Average turnout per call was 5 personnel, and there were 7 volunteers who responded for the month. Year to date, the fire department's responded to 223 calls. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions on the fire report? All those in favor of accepting it as written, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Library, Jody.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The library board met on February 15th, and I'll just share a few highlights. They were awarded some additional state aid that had initially been cut from the state budget. They also are applying for a CARES Act grant to be used for technology upgrades. They've expanded their operating hours now to 45 hours per week. Some of that is grab and go, and some of that is actual, where you can enter the building and browse. And all of their staff have now returned to work. They are looking for some additional board members, and they've posted information on their website. For those who might be interested in applying for that, those positions should open in June. And they're also investigating some fundraising options for this year and next year, but they are considering having a modified derby party in May with a virtual option too. Their next meeting is March 15th at 7 p.m. via Zoom.
Okay. Any questions for the library board? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Personnel Committee, Tom.
Okay, we met on February 16th, and at that time, the committee is recommending that council request authorization for the Civil Service Commission to begin the promotional process for police department sergeants. And I will make that motion.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, the other item that is there, having to do with any conditional offers to police department for patrol, is going to be tabled due to some information received from the manager and information about that list, and it has to go back to the Civil Service Commission. So we don't need to take action on that, do we? We just pass it back to them?
Yeah, that's right. You're just making an announcement tonight.
Yeah, okay. So there's the announcement. And that is all.
Okay. Any questions for the Personnel Committee? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Infrastructure, Tom.
Okay, on infrastructure, on the, well, I guess it's page 2 there, the sanitary sewer rehab and televising project. The committee is recommending payment of application number 1 in the amount of $81,498.40 to Mr. Rehab LLC for that work, and I will make that motion.
And a second.
Second.
We have a second. Melissa, roll call, please.
Councilmember Boucher,
Yes?
Councilmember Woodward,
Yes.
Councilmember Jenks,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Durr,
Yes.
and Council President Mull.
Yes.
Okay, and then moving into streets, we have the 4th Street Extension project there, and the committee is recommending approval of payment number 4 in the amount of $116,938.13 to Barwas Construction, and I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, Melissa?
Councilmember Boucher,
Yes?
Councilmember Woodward,
Yes.
Councilmember Jenks,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Durr,
Yes.
and Council President Mull.
Yes.
Okay, and the last item here that we took action on was the committee is recommending the council the award of the 2021 water main replacement work to Barrasso Excavating Inc. in the amount of $97,720. With the
Good.
with the additional information, or not the additional information, the additional part to that being that there be additional oversight to make sure that the contract is followed and that water sample tests for that project be sent directly to the borough. And I'll make that motion.
Tom, one thing on that.
Well, go ahead.
The 97,720 figure, I think that's what was actually said at the meeting, but that was only the base bid. That didn't include the work over at Greenwood Mall. So if we want to do the Greenwood Mall work, and if you remember, that's the area where the valves are inoperative and we can't close the lines. So if we want to do the Greenwood Mall area, the bid amount that should be awarded would be $118,120, and that would cover all the work.
This is Jim too. The budget amount for that water work is 157. So even with these alternates, we're still way below budget.
Okay, what was it? 118, 120, and how much?
Even 118, 120 and no cents.
Okay, and that's to include, all right, so I'll reword that here, I guess, and we'll change that number. Chris, is that all right with including that other part that we added?
Yes, you can modify your motion. This was all part of the bid, correct, Jim?
Yeah, we actually talked about both parts, and I didn't realize when the motion was made, it didn't include that. And actually, I talked to Melissa when I saw the draft minutes, and she checked, and unfortunately, the 97,720 was the amount stated in infrastructure, but it should have been the 118, 120.
Okay.
Okay, but it will include that additional part I have there of the oversight to make sure the contract is followed and the water samples sent directly to the borough. That still goes with all that.
Right, yes.
Okay, and then, so I'll change the amount there to 118, 120, and even. And I'll make that motion.
Second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. Melissa, roll call, please.
Councilmember Basher,
Yes.
Councilmember Woodward,
Yes.
Councilmember Jenks,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jur,
Yes.
and Council President Mull.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll just add in there, or I'll ask Jim, Bab, do you have anything else you want to add in there, Jim, about anything?
No, I just wanted to make sure that this water got corrected. So no, I have nothing else to add.
Okay, and we had one leak in there, I guess, since that meeting, right?
Yeah, we had a leak 2-3 weeks ago, Old Mill Road. It was a pretty big leak for us, but we resolved it and things are back to normal.
Okay, all right, anyone else? Any other questions about the information there? Okay, and that's it, Tom.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the infrastructure report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Recreation Board, let's see. Steve's not here. Dan, are you on?
Yes,
Dan,
sir.
Why don't you do that one for us?
Sure. So the rec board met on February 16th for our regular meeting. We discussed ongoing plans of Earth Day, Fishing Rodeo, Memorial Day, as well as initial discussions of the pool and playground. We are going to discuss the status of rec events going forward from after June at our next meeting. So we're going to, be discussing the concerts in the park as well as the 4th of July parade and so forth. We then had a special meeting to discuss playground, and we have a recommendation to present to council, and I'll read that for you here. We're asking council to approve our plan for summer playground as follows. Playground will be held for 8 weeks at Happy Hollow Playground, as well as Wyomissing Hills Playground. Tot Lot and Playground will be held from 9 to 12, Monday through Friday, June 14th through August 6th. Guidelines regarding social distancing and maximum occupancy will be followed according to the most recent CDC, Department of Health, and Pennsylvania Recreation Park Society guidance. Participants and staff will be required to follow all health and safety action plans enacted by the borough, including wearing masks while participating in the program. Daily cleaning and disinfecting will be performed at both facilities. All participants and staff will be required to perform a daily self-screen before attending playground and will be further screened every day before entering the playground. And that's all I have. That's our recommendation there. If you guys have any other questions.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do we have to put that in the form of a motion, Chris?
Yeah, I would recommend that there be a motion, but council might want to consider authorizing key staff to make adjustments to the particulars on that as time goes by, as the guidance changes, because we do have a fluid situation with regard to this subject matter.
Okay,
So the motion could be to adopt the recommendation of the rec board and to authorize key borough staff to make adjustments as needed.
okay. Somebody willing to make that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Good job, Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything, anybody have any questions for the rec board? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes got it. Thank you. Fire and Police Committee, Bill.
Okay, Fire and Police Committee met on February the 22nd. It's pretty much self-explanatory, just a few highlights here. From the fire department, there were a total of 33 overlapping calls in December, which represented 19% of the calls. Average turnout time within the borough from the station was 2 minutes and 2 seconds, way under the NFPA standards. We're still waiting to hear from our broker in regards to the potential sale of Tower 79. And while we await, the tower remains out of service. And the only other notable is under Western Berks Ambulance. They responded to 215 calls for service in the borough. And most importantly, there were 2 instances where Narcan was administered. And there's no action be taken before council, fire and police tonight. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Bill. Any questions for Fire and Police? All those in favor of accepting the report as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have it, thank you. Next item is Economic Development. John?
Yeah, hello. We met on the February 25th. And no, we'll go with, I have 28th, but anyway. And we got a presentation from the train people that have a fitness center behind the Metropolitan Apartments, and they're kind of off the beaten path there, but what they do is they don't really train individuals. That's true, not true. They train athletes and teams. So, we wish them well, and Chris Kegg's involved there. There's 3 entities in there, and I think that's an exciting thing for the borough. You go to the next page there. Yeah, then we got an interesting presentation from Jacob Stein from Boscov's about the Berkshire Mall and some misconceptions that we have had about Boscov's being an impediment to progress there. And that was also interesting. But so at that point, I'll entertain any questions, but we have to make a motion to recommend the Planning Commission. No, we already did that. We'll get that to the Planning Commission. We don't have to do that, do we, Chris?
No, I think we can bring that up later in the agenda. Yep.
Okay,
Just wait.
thanks. That's all I have.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the Economic Development Committee report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Have it. We did Rec Board Planning Commission. Again, John.
Thank you. So we did the ordinance already after we had the hearing about the activities proposed for Crown Plaza. And so we would,
Yeah, the ordinance that you're looking at on your agenda or on the planning commission meeting minutes for Crown Plaza is different than the one that council enacted earlier this evening. So this is a separate ordinance, and we are looking for a recommendation from or action from council to advertise this for enactment in April.
okay, that's great. Do I need to read that ordinance or?
Just read the preamble to it, John.
Okay, if you could go back up, yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, this is an ordinance 1417-2021 from the borough to amend the code of ordinances for the borough of Wyomissing, chapter 27 entitled zoning by amending part 5 entitled commercial and industrial district regulations, section 12. Is that enough, or you want me to keep going?
No, that's enough.
Okay, and I
Go ahead.
I move we advertise that.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Go ahead, Don.
Okay, how about okay, this ordinance for the cell towers, Chris, is that ready to be enacted?
Yeah, we're ready to advertise that one as well for April.
To advertise it. Okay, this is a kind of voluminous addition to the zoning ordinance regulating smaller cell towers. So we're going to amend the ordinances, and I don't know if you all read it, but it's lengthy, but
The gist of it is to incorporate aesthetic standards into the zoning ordinance so that if we have some of these so-called mini cell towers, or they're really things that are attached to light posts, they might be attached to the side of a building, and they provide additional cell access within communities. And so the intent of this is to provide some aesthetic regulations to make sure that this equipment blends into the architecture and, existing shape of light posts and things like that, so that this stuff doesn't look like it's from another planet.
okay. I make a recommendation to council approve advertising of ordinance number 1418-2021 as to wireless communications facilities aesthetics, and I so move.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Go ahead, John.
I think that's about it.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the planning commission report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Finance and administration. Steve, you want to do that one, please?
Yep. The Finance and Administration Committee met on March 4th. As part of the meeting, Barry Keck and Ron Bittner from Gerard Pension Services made a presentation. And as you'll recall, every 2 years, the fund balances in the pension funds are analyzed, and the actuaries do some projections and so on by law, indicating where we stand with where we need to be. The bad news was at the end of 2018, we had a blip in the stock market, and the funds took a dive. And by taking a picture at the end of 2018, it put us into an 80% ratio. And we had to live with that for 2 years, which required us to add additional dollars to the pension funds over and above the MMO. The good news is that the stock market, when they took the picture at the end of 2020, indicated that we were more than fully funded. We were actually, in some of the funds, were over 100%, which is which is phenomenal news because that means that we do not need to do anything additional with our pension funds. They went through all the different funds and, where we stand with police, fire, and so on. And they're all well funded to the point where we don't need to do anything. The only contribution we'll have to make is the one mandated by the state, net of the contributions that we get from the state pension fund. There was a motion made and seconded to recommend to council that Phyllis make the first required payment of $181,116.75. What she looked at is what we would need net of the state. Our total would be 709,000, of which about 400,000 comes from the state. So she divided that up into quarters, and we would true that up in the fourth quarter, depending on what the actual state aid is. But we're recommending to council to approve $181,116.75, and I so move.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Voucher,
Yes.
Councilmember Woodward,
Yes.
Councilmember Jenks,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Dur,
Yes.
and Council President Mull.
Yes.
That's really good news.
Yes,
Yep.
it is. Yes.
Phyllis also gave the committee a cash update. We're where we need to be. There was also a decision to move some of the dollars since interest rates are so low and we were sitting on cash. I think she ended up moving a total of $4 million into 2 CDs. It's not a lot of money, but it's a couple $1,000s extra in interest that appeared to be excess cash that we didn't necessarily need immediately. And that was approved. She also gave an update of the cash receipts. It appears that the cash receipts are somewhat delayed. The county is changing their system, so they have not made the normal payments. So we are behind. We have a negative variance, about $136,000 from the local services tax, all of which they intend to make up. It's just that they haven't issued it yet. We also allowed Phyllis, because the mail, anybody else noticed, but the mail is incredibly slow, and we're starting to get some late fees from certain bills like UGI and some of the utility companies because sending checks. So the committee told Phyllis to go ahead and will allow her to contact some of the vendors and allow for ACH payments made directly from the bank account. However, the caveat was given to her that the same approval process and the same oversight had to exist so that Greg and whoever else has to sign checks and approve payments, all those policies and procedures would stay in place, but that rather than putting a check in the mail, she would be allowed to do it directly from the bank account. I think what we also did is Michelle presented some discussion of an unbudgeted item off of Parkside Drive North, where there's a trail hazard with some steps. She's recommending that the trail be rehabbed, the steps be removed, and there was to replace the steps, it was, I think, $35,000 or $40,000. They came up with another solution for $11,800, and the finance committee made a motion and approved it to be sent to infrastructure so that infrastructure, it's already got finance's blessing if infrastructure wants to move forward with the project under those guys. If it's 50,000, no, but if it's what she presented of 11,800, the finance committee is okay with it.
Okay, good.
So I don't think we need a motion or anything for that. That's just what the finance committee is moving on with.
Okay.
There was also a presentation made that there was an issue with the bollards at the Berkshire Heights Playground. That's a major safety concern. That's also another unbudgeted project, but that there was some plans submitted, maybe some guide rails, but they were like $45,000. The finance committee discussed and approved to move on to infrastructure to replace the ballards, which was going to be somewhere between $10,000 and $11,000. So that was another project that's already been approved by finance, moving over to infrastructure. If you choose to go forward with it, as long as it's within those parameters of those dollars of an unbudgeted item.
Gotcha.
I think that's it, unless there's any other questions.
Keith, I would recommend that the ACH payment policy be endorsed by council by motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion that our business manager, along with our borough manager, look into certain vendors being transferred from a paper check process to an ACH payment process, providing that all the same oversights and guidelines and procedures are kept in place to make sure that it's properly documented and approved, but that to eliminate the writing of a check and having to go through the mail with late payments. I'll make that motion.
A second,
Is that all right, Chris?
Yeah, that's great.
second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. Thank you. Anything else, Chief?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor of accepting the Finance Committee report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. Thank you. Borough Manager's report, Pat.
Good evening, everyone. The Joint Municipal Authority minutes are there for your review. There is a resolution for you to take a look at for mowing reimbursement. The correspondence of February 10th was attached to that. Basically, the Public Works Department does some mowing for PennDOT. We get reimbursed from that. We need to issue a resolution. This resolution allows the borough manager or the assistant borough manager or the secretary, the secretary and the borough manager, authorization to sign for that agreement to get reimbursed from the state. So I would request you adopt resolution 2021-05.
Is there somebody wish to put that on the table, please?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Go ahead, Pat.
There is another, we have an agreement coming down from municipal sewer shut-off agreement with Pennsylvania American Water, which deals with the accounts in Wyomissing Hills. With that, we sent that over to the solicitor for review. Chris and his staff are taking a look at it. They're not ready to go with it. Just wanted to make sure you knew the municipal agreement. I think the last one that was actually put into effect was around 1994, so it's time to catch up to it. Let's see. The request has been sent over to the Civil Service Commission to begin the promotional testing process for the firefighter technician position in the fire department, so that's moving forward. The rest of it, we're still operating under our COVID operations, and we're starting to see our tax payments. That seems to be going fairly smoothly coming into the drop box, so we're not seeing any issues with that. I think that's all I have. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions for the manager?
Nope.
All those in favor of accepting the report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Have it. The next item of business is the Treasurer's Statement of Operation for the General Fund, the Bureau of Water, the Sewer Fund, Highway Aid, Refuse and Recycling Fund, and the Road Tax Fund. Any questions on the paper, on the summary? All those in favor of accepting that report as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have it. Accounts payable.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I missed one thing in my report. Can I go back to that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Sorry for the interruption. We received the Deer Density Survey report from the United States Department of Agriculture. That report is being forwarded out to council to take a look at. I would request that council authorize me to send that report to the Park and Shade Tree Committee for consideration and recommendation back to council.
Somebody willing
So
to make
moved.
second?
Second.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, last item we have here is the accounts payable for the general fund, for the Bureau of Water, the Sewer Fund, the Refuse and Recycling Fund. Any questions on the bills?
Yeah, one question, that Cummins bill for repairs for 25,000. What was that for? Was that multiple vehicles or what?
That was
the
a fire truck.
Oh,
for the aerial.
I should have known.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the
One that
only
doesn't work.
That's the only piece of equipment we have that doesn't work. Oh, boy. Yeah, glad that's not mine. Any questions on the bills? Okay, all those in favor of accepting a report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have it. We don't have a tax collector's report this evening. Any other business to be brought before council this evening?
Could I just make an announcement?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, I believe that Marianne Reardon, she's a member of our Refuse and Recycling Committee. She's organizing a spring cleanup event for Sunday, March 21st from noon to 2. I think they're planning to meet at the Berkshire Mall parking lot. They'll supply masks, gloves, trash bags. I just want to let everybody know that they can contact the borough, I believe, for more information about that. I think our staff has information. We usually get some participation from some high school students at the service club, so they've been contacted to help. And I just want to thank Marianne publicly for organizing that event.
Where are they going for that, Jody?
I think it's just kind of in the like a swale area, right behind them all. That's usually what they do is
The service area right off of.
service area. Yeah.
Well, we sure have a lot of junk along the bypass area. I don't think they go up there though, do they? It's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I
Do they
think
do
they'll
that?
do it, right, they'll do it safely in accordance with COVID guidelines and try to socially distance and wear masks and all of that and try to, yeah, I think they've done it in the past. They just had to cancel last year because of COVID. So,
Yeah, well, I wasn't even thinking of that. It's just that the traffic up there is so horrible.
yeah.
Yeah. And that information is on the borough website if anyone needs it.
I'll just make one other quick announcement then. I got a call from Highlands is going to be doing a vaccine thing over at the Highlands. And I'm working with them through the emergency management to put out a notice probably tomorrow sometime. That's going to take place and there'll be some directions with that. I don't know how many they're expecting to sign up, but I guess it's just an FYI for people to pay attention. And if I know some of my neighbors across the street from me who are more elderly and less computer savvy even than me, are having a difficult time getting signed up. And I think this is an opportunity for those kind of people. So if you know someone who needs help with that sign up as it comes out, maybe you can help them out or at least let them know it's coming, because not everybody will get that call. I only get about 65%, contact with everybody there. Just a information thing.
Okay, great. Anything else? Anybody else this evening? If not, we will stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.